Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. This is Ashley Nicole, and welcome back to This is a Morning Live. I hope you all are doing well today. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, I got my days right. Today is Wednesday. I have a little bit of time, so I wanted to come in and just really, I titled the live a certain way, and I did the thumbnail a certain way, but this is kind of going to be a random chat, right? I just kind of felt like talking about something that I recently saw and heard. Um, and so yeah, so I hope Wednesday is going well for everybody. This is the middle of the week, so I hope you've been kind of crushing your goals for this week, making sure that you are on track with your goals, and most importantly, making sure also that you put yourself first in doing all of those things and the time and energy that you spend doing other things. Make sure you put that time and energy into yourself as well. So I hope things have been going good. This, my channel is really about kind of mental health awareness. If you all don't know, I am a licensed therapist. And so sometimes I see things on the internet, right? The interwebs, right? Or just different things that kind of come up in my day to day life where, I feel compelled to kind of talk about them and again, bring awareness regarding mental health. It is so important, right? To help to reduce the stigma when talking about mental health. The most common diagnoses as anxiety, depression, things of that nature. I do have a private practice, and so I do, hear these things on a daily basis and just kind of really gather a lot of different perspectives and how people kind of deal with the symptoms regarding mental health in different ways. So I also have a coaching practice and where I coach individuals on how to navigate work stress, anxiety, depression in the workplace, any kind of workplace toxicity you've been experiencing. I help people with that as well. But enough about me. I want to, I don't know, I'm going to pose this question. I'm sure this happens to other people, but I'm not really sure why it happened in my world. I'm still trying to kind of decipher that. Now, I've said this before, right? I listen to YouTube, I watch YouTube for entertainment, the time that I do have, the extra time that I do have, a little bit of that, I'm listening to different things, right? And the algorithm on all of these internet platforms, be it Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, things like that, right? From my understanding, because I'm not like this big, I'm not a tech person or anything like that, is that, right? You notice that when you start watching one thing, other things come up, right? In that kind of like in that same vein or, the same theme. You start to see different videos from different people regarding the same topics, right? But every once in a while, there might be something that come up that doesn't have anything to do with what you've been watching, but you realize that it has something to do like with your life per se, like you've been involved in some way. And it's kind of like this weird thing because it's like, how does the algorithm really know that this is a part of my life or that I've done this in my life or whatever it might be? And so I'm wondering if this happens to other people because what I've noticed is that just randomly, and I had never watched any of these videos or I hadn't even uh typed in anything related to it. Now, I did do this is interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it and saying it out loud, it might be the reason why, right? The last live that I did, the last two lives that I did, has something to do with Dr. Bonnie Bailey, right? And I mentioned in my video that Dr. Bonnie Bailey was an AKA, and she's part of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And so I am as well. So I mentioned that. So that might have something to do with it now that I'm thinking about it. But suffice it to say, something came on my timeline. Um, a video came on my timeline that I was shocked. Not really shocked, but I'm like, okay, why is this coming up here, right? And so I'm wondering if this has happened to anybody else where there are a lot of videos of people denouncing their sororities and fraternities, right? And so me being of course a therapist and analyzing things, I said, oh, this is interesting. Let me listen to this video. And so I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. I went down a rabbit hole of listening to these videos. I'm like, this is very it's very interesting to say the least. Now, for someone that was initiated, right? Some of the things or a lot of the things that and they are laying it all out. I mean, they're the videos are basically there's this woman on YouTube. She has a channel that it seems more of like she's a Christian and she has a channel where she invites different guests on her channel to kind of tell their story about denouncing their fraternity or sorority. And they just basically tell their story, how they got into Greek life, what it was like going to college, how it was introduced to them, why they decided to join, things like that, right? Um, and I didn't watch too many of the videos, but the few of them I watched, I one of them I came across one of the women actually went to the school that I went to. And so then I really became interested, right? I'm like, wow, okay, let me see what the conversation is going to be about, let me hear like what she experienced and based on what she said, right? Um she pledged years after I did. So her experience was probably totally different. But some of the things that they were saying were very, right, that I could attest to, right? Um, and it's funny how these things work where you are just like scrolling the interwebs, the internet and things like that, and these things kind of pop up. Not that I ever had in my mind that I would do something like that, but just having uh the awareness or information that people are doing this, right? And so I'm just listening. I'm like, wow. And I'm not even going to lie, y'all. Some of the points that they make are very valid for me, right? Because this is an individual thing. Some of the points are very valid. But I was just wondering, like, how did this even show up on my timeline, right? A lot of them kind of gave the, or, gave the conversation or, kind of saying the same thing kind of happened to them, like, oh, I wasn't even looking for this. It's just like popped up out of nowhere. Or maybe someone else was kind of saying these things and it just like popped up out of nowhere, things like that. Right. And I'm not saying that this, is like my story, like this is what I'm planning to do or anything like that. But it's interesting how life works in general. So fast forward to the title of my live, right? Or when you look at the thumbnail, it's like, girl, you need therapy. Right. And so the thumbnail is just a thumbnail, right? But I started to think about, okay, the reasons why people come to therapy, or sometimes for a lot of people it might be preventative, right? There are a lot of people that go to therapy to prevent things from getting to a certain point. It's like, okay, I want to learn the skills beforehand, because life sometimes is lifing and I need to know, how to handle these things or how to manage these things if and when they come up. I mean, some people will argue, of course, that this is a level of anxiety because, I mean, these are things that are out of your control, right? But when you start to see things, hear things, right? And, frankly, as you get older, you start to look at things in a different way, right? Or maybe not look at them in a different way, but being open and receptive to different perspectives about things, right? And for a lot of people, this is just you kind of growing in general, right? As you get older, you become more mature, you've had more experience, right? And shoot, to be honest, when talking to like a lot of my friends and things like that, this awareness kind of comes in your 40s. At 40, baby, everything changes. Like, I'm looking at things different. I'm saying, "Oh no, I would never do that again," right? Or no, I thought about that and this is not it. I'm taking my life in a different direction. Like things start to really settle when it comes to like different your thoughts, right? And what you think about things, how you view things, right, is a little bit different. Um, and so when you think about going to therapy, again, it could be preventative, not so much waiting till something happens, but therapy really kind of focuses on, right, how you even got to the point of where you are at, right? Based on what your current beliefs are, right? Even down to the type of career that you have chosen, the type of relationship that you have decided to be in, right? The friendships that you have held on to, or maybe not, right? Just different decisions that you have made, right? Kind of gaining a little bit more awareness and insight into why and how you made those decisions, right? And then once you've gotten that down pat, right? Because overall, most of the time, what I see, and I'm only speaking for my practice, right? That most of the time, of course, this how you feel and think about things did not start with you. Right? It's like you learned it from somewhere on how things should be, how you should interact with people, even to how you should present yourself, right? It's almost like you are going through life for a lot of years based on what other people have set this thing up to be. And then once you get to a point where you've had a little bit more experience, right? You've had a little bit more insight. It's like, okay, now I'm really thinking about this. How do I feel about it? So for a lot of people, I see that. And so once you have the understanding and the insight into why and how you got here, now we can start to move forward, right? With the coping skills, right? Most importantly, being consistent with the coping skills, managing anxiety, right? Managing the symptoms of depression, things like that. Right now, it's easier for you to handle things, and for a lot of people for the people who have experienced various traumas, right? You are more susceptible to not being able to handle everyday stressors, right? Might be a little bit of work stress, might be the politics at work, right? Even down to parenting, right? You get overwhelmed very quick, you get irritated quickly, and things like that. You are more susceptible to not being able to like bring yourself back or calm yourself down a little bit easier, right? And so this is why therapy is so important. So then when I think back to these videos that I am hearing, right? The ones that I listen to, I mean, I don't know their ages, but then when they talk about the time that they pledged, it seemed like maybe they might be in Generation Z, maybe the ones that I listen to, right? Um, and so for that generation, their mindset and how they view things is totally different from other generations. They do have, because of the internet age, right? They have more awareness about things. They are quicker to get there to say, you know what, this don't make no sense. They quick to say, like for example, when they go to work, maybe they could be there 2 months and they look around and say, "Oh no, this is not working. I'm working too late. I got to be here how many hours? Oh no, this manager doesn't even know what they doing." Like, and will say something, right? Like, y'all need to change this. They'll call HR in a second. Like, whatever is they feel is not working, they don't wait, right? Or if they see, okay, this is out of alignment or this is like out of order for me, like they don't wait to say those things or make other people aware. They are coming out and saying, hey, maybe y'all should think about this because this don't sound right. Right. So a lot of the videos about the dynasty I watched may be from, like I said, the ones that I watched, it sounds like they might be from Generation Z. Nevertheless, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, they had some good points. They had some good points, and especially if you are heavy in your faith, right? If you're heavy in your faith, then it wouldn't, it sounds like, it wouldn't align with your life, and how you view life and what you believe in and things like that. Right. So it was very interesting to see those. And like I said, I went down a rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, well, let me listen to this one. And let me listen to, well, let me see what she said. I mean, all of them had like a certain theme in their story, but very uh, you know, very courageous in doing that. I mean, you got to give it to them. It's not easy to come out to say that, right? And to be comfortable with saying that and not saying, I mean, it sounds like it was difficult for all of them to do, right? And the backlash that they received, right? That was interesting too, hearing the comments that they got on maybe videos that they had done, or even sharing with their previous line sisters or line brothers and things like that, that maybe they were viewed in a certain way or judged for um what they believe in, right? Which is the really, like the total opposite of what the organizations are supposed to be like. I mean, they are, supposedly Christian organizations, right? It's based on, sisterhood, brotherhood, the community, helping the community thrive and things like that, right? And so to hear that they got backlash or were afraid to stand up for what they believe in, right? It was difficult to hear. So just wondering, has anyone ever experienced like something coming on your timeline? You like, what's going on? Where did this even come from? Like I didn't even know these videos exist. I mean, apparently a lot of them said that I think on TikTok, maybe, people talk about this a lot, but I'm not on TikTok. So I don't even I don't know what goes on over there, but it was very, very interesting. I also wanted to kind of touch on um how to really find a therapist, right? For some reason, right? A lot of people, I always ask my clients, like, how did you find me? Things like that, right? And one of the things is that, and maybe this is just the area that I'm in, but I'm wondering if other people experience this too, that it's difficult to find a Black therapist. And some people look specifically for that. And and there's a lot of representation when it comes to that, right? There are a lot of black therapists, and for some odd reason, people say, "Oh, it was difficult to find a black therapist," or it could be difficult for them to find someone that they feel like resonates with them too, right? But the easiest way to find a therapist is, especially if you work in a corporate environment, a fairly bigger company, some smaller companies too, they have employee assistance programs, right? And so if you are a person who has never been in therapy, wants to try it, you don't really know what the experience will be like. Maybe you're a little bit hesitant, but you know you need help with working on things, right? To go through your employee assistance program because they give you sessions for free. Some employee assistance programs might give you 4 sessions, some might give you 6. I've seen some that might give you 10 to 12. And I think since 2020, some employee assistance programs have kind of increased that a little bit to where they'll say, okay, we'll give you 6 sessions. For example, if you have relationship challenges, we'll give you 6 sessions for that. But then if you have after that, if you have another challenge, maybe something going on in the home, or maybe there's grief involved or something like that, then we'll give you 6 more sessions for this particular issue, right? And so this is a way for you to kind of step into it and get a little bit of experience of how it will be, or how the structure of therapy. And then after those sessions, if you say, you know what, I want to continue this, then you can use your insurance, right? Now, insurance, don't please, hi Blue Skies, thank you for joining. Do not give up. Do not, right? Again, it depends on the area that you are in, but you know how sometimes they have ads. Like there are ads for BetterHelp, there are ads for Alma, ads for growth therapy, right? You just go on there, especially if you're using your insurance. You just go on there, or Psychology Today, you just go in there and type in like your primary concern. Say, for example, you've got workplace stress, right? You go on there, type that in, and all of the therapists in your area are going to pop up that help with workplace stress, right? Now, you might choose someone based on their profile, and you have your first session is going to be like an intake session where they're going to ask you in-depth questions about, your history, things like that, right? But even before that, you can have a lot of therapists do consultations. I do consultations as well. Consultations are like 10 minutes, right? Where you don't have to meet them by video or anything. It's just a call, right? They'll call you at a certain time that you say is good for you, and they'll kind of explain what modalities they use. If they use cognitive behavioral therapy, if they have teach you mindfulness strategies, things like that. You kind of tell them a little bit about what you've been experiencing, and then they can tell you, oh, okay, yeah, these are the issues that I can help you with. These are the times that I'm available, right? You ask all the questions to see if you even want to schedule an intake session, and the consultations are usually free, right? So I do free 10-minute consultations just to kind of see if you feel like, okay, do you think this will work for you? Are the times that I'm available, does that work for you? Now, what I do, I can't speak for all therapists, is that once we're on that 10-minute call and you say, okay, well, I work until 6:30, and so I need a 7 o'clock session, right? I don't work that late. However, right, there are therapists in my area where we all work together, right? And so I might not do late sessions, but a colleague of mine might, and I know them. I've worked with them before, right? I know the type of work that they do and things like that. So then will give you a referral to that person. So that way you don't have to go looking again. You know what I mean? So then it's going to be quicker, right? I'm going to let my colleague know, hey, you might have someone calling. They need 7 p.m. sessions. Perfect. I'll give you their phone number and everything, right? But don't give up. Look at those consultations. Schedule. Now, if someone doesn't call you back within 24 hours, you have a consultation with someone else, right? You might even decide, oh my gosh, this profile is good. Like they deal with the workplace place stress, right? They can, I can learn deep breathing, so on and so forth. You might decide to go ahead and schedule a session. Right now, when you schedule the intake session, that first one is not really so much a therapy session. At least that's not how I do it, right? I'm asking you a lot of questions about like your symptoms, how long your symptoms have been there, right? What's the intensity of the symptoms you're experiencing, right? Asking you a lot of questions about your history, any, medical concerns, anything like that, right? Then we start to talk about maybe what goals that you have for therapy, like what do you want to accomplish? And then after that is when we schedule the next ones. But I every therapist, their sessions are structured differently. So for me, at the end of my intake, I don't just automatically schedule another session. I ask my clients, would you like to schedule another one? Because you might think, okay, this ain't the right one. Right? It's like when you go to therapy, it's a vibe that you're gonna get in that intake, right? And if you don't feel the vibe that you need to feel, because see, when you go to therapy, this is not a place that you have to remember the process is for you. So for my clients, baby, they can come and say anything they need to say. They can, say it how they want to say it, right? Some people might not normally use profanity, but shoot, in the sessions, they so upset they might have to let off an F bomb. It ain't a thing for me. It's like you gotta get it out. So just say it, right? I'm not here to judge you, right? I'm like a neutral person that's listening to what you're saying, validating your concerns, your feelings, your thoughts, and things like that. Like, suffice it to say, you should feel comfortable in a therapy session, right? You shouldn't feel like you gotta put yourself together, put on a little makeup, dress yourself. I mean, of course, you can't come to therapy session, without with your shirt off and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But you don't have to be, present yourself in a certain way. You just being yourself and getting some help. But again, the process is for you. So if you don't feel the vibe, you're like, okay, I don't think this gonna work, right? Then you find another therapist. The 99.99% of therapists are not going to feel a type of way if you say, okay, this is not really working, or even if you ghost them, they're not going to feel a type of way. It's part of the process in your healing, right? You found someone where you at least started like, okay, I know I need therapy. Let me reach out to somebody and just get the process started. But then maybe after a couple of sessions, you like, I'm not really feeling it, or we're not really talking about the things that we need to talk about, or whatever it might be. Of course, you want to kind of address this with the therapist, but some people aren't even at that point where you're comfortable with doing that, right? So a lot of people ghost therapists, right? Maybe, it could be a whole bunch of reasons why, but the therapist is not going to feel a certain way, or they shouldn't, because it's part of the process. And you just find a different one. That's all. And you keep trying until you find the one that is right for you. Because I'm gonna tell you, when you find the right one, oh, the it's like it's like an awakening, right? When you start to really talk about the things that you've been thinking about, right? Maybe you've been overthinking, maybe you trying to make a decision decision about something, right? And you basically going through life trying to make these decisions or thinking about things that have happened or what's going to happen. You trying to figure it out on your own when you have somebody kind of there to ask you, because they're going to ask you some difficult questions, right? They might ask you things that you haven't thought about before. You're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Right now, you start to build an awareness about what you've been thinking about, right? And so now an awakening happens like, you know what? I do need to make some changes. And you start to hold yourself accountable for these things. uh, You're you're going to start to notice things in your life are going to start to change, and it's going to change for the better, right? For example, people who have challenges of putting up the boundaries, right? Just saying no to people once they are empowered and understand, like, why haven't I been able to say no? It's like you want to say no, but it's like you just can't do it. Right? It's like I can't tell them no because XYZ 1, 2, 3, or what if they say this, or what if they think this, right? Once you're in the therapy session, you start to talk about these things, gain insight into why is it that you can't say no? Like, just no, full stop, no, period. Like, why is that? You start to think out loud and you like, girl, that is why. And then all of a sudden you telling no to everything. You saying no to everything. Oh no, I don't want to hang out. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. No, just like simply no. Right? Now you are focusing on yourself instead of focusing on everybody else. Right? Now, when you think about that, and I'm just taking this for an example, when you think about that, it's like, why would you? And it don't have to be deep, but it is deep, right? Why are you putting others before yourself? Because sometimes when we have a lot of things going on, it could be stress at home, it could be stress at work, it could be past trauma. You got a relationship issue, you got financial problems, whatever it might be. It's easier to focus on everybody else than to focus on what's happening with you. Right? It's like, okay, you can avoid all these things happening with you because you're trying to help everybody else. So it's like you putting yourself on the back burner. It's like, oh no, I ain't got to deal with that today because such and such asked me to do this. Or no, I don't have to do that today because I got to cook for my husband. He really want, whatever, whatever. No, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. All the things that are happening with you, I'm gonna get some rest tomorrow because I got to clean up the house today, or whatever it might be, right? But the more and more you put yourself on the back burner, right, you are putting yourself last. And that's not a healthy place to be, because everybody has heard this, even though you may not apply it in your everyday life, is that if you are not okay and you cannot take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anybody else, whether that be kids, your husband, your mom, other people in your family, being productive at work, right? Even down to you if you're involved in things that you're interested in, right? It's like you cannot even do those things because you have not taken care of yourself. For some people, if if it's like the foundation, if you have not taken care of yourself, or let me take it back. When you have or start to take care of yourself, a whole lot of stuff will get better, right? It's like, okay, if, I take just a little bit of time to get some rest, maybe you've been tired lately, getting a little bit of rest, even if you are going to get your nails done or doing your nails yourself, or taking time to read a few pages of a book, right? Taking time to do your affirmations in the evening or whenever you do them, pouring back into yourself. Now, when you do other things, when you decide to help people, Not that you have to, right? When you decide to say yes to something, you're not going to think about, well, dog, now I don't have time to do this, or you're not going to be as irritated. You're not going to be annoyed, right? Things don't get on your nerve as easily. You know what I mean? So putting yourself first will help a lot of things. It's very important. And people, what I find is that people know this, right? But it is easier said than done when you going about the day just busy. There's never enough time in the day. It's so many things that you have to touch and do, based on, just life responsibilities, that it's like, this, but you just never seem to find the time to do it, right? But like like everybody says, right? This is a new year. You have got to make time, and you make time for what you want to make time for, right? It's a lot of why questions that you have to ask yourself, right? Like, even for that, why wouldn't you make time for yourself? Like, even when you just say that out loud to yourself, it's like, wow, uh, you are neglecting yourself. Why would you do that? Right? And this could be people that tell other people this, right? And I'll be honest, I have to remind myself of that too. It's like, girl, you are running around trying to do XYZ 1, 2, 3, and ABC, right? You got to slow down a little bit. You got to slow down, right? Okay, you might have to say no a few more times this week. You might, the big project that you had in mind, you might have to like put it on hold for a few days, because you got to get a little bit more rest. You need some sleep, right? This is where in therapy the awareness comes in, right? You start to learn yourself a little bit more. It's like, you know what? I really don't like that. I noticed that when I do have a lot on my plate, that's when I start to become irritable, right? You start to again gain awareness, gain a little bit of insight into you. And therapy is one thing that you can do for yourself, right? These things are very important. Y'all probably can tell that this is like my jam. I absolutely I love being a therapist. I do. I do. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it's heavy, because people deal with some real stuff. It's some days where the majority of my work day is just hearing terrible things. This is where I have gained awareness and insight into myself, right? And I'm not going to say good, but every therapist should have had therapy at some point in their life. You know what I mean? Um, Number one, just to know what the experience is like for our clients. Um, Also for preventative purposes, right? And also to manage the feelings that we get from hearing all of the things that we hear about, right? Especially if you've been a therapist for a long time. I mean, these things, the stories stick with you. You know what I mean? Some of the things you can't even imagine. But having the awareness for myself that I have to pour back into myself on those days, this is very, very important. So I do make note of that and make time for myself, especially on those days where it's been a lot, right? Um, but yes, if you are looking for a therapist, you've been searching for one, right? You don't know where to turn. Right? Start with your employee assistance program. They're going to give you those first few sessions for free. It's like no charge at all to you, right? And then after that, if you want to continue with that therapist, then you can use your insurance. Now, insurance is tricky nowadays, right? Where it depends on like the big insurance companies, right? You still know of like United, Aetna, what else they got? Blue Cross Blue Shield. Um, what is another one? Those might be like the main ones. But these big plans have sub plans. So you might have a specific insurance that's called something, but it's under oh, and Cigna is another big one, but it's under the umbrella of Cigna, or you know what I mean, but it's called something different, right? But it depends on your plan what you might have to pay for therapy, right? So if, for example, if you have like, because a lot of people get confused. I find, I don't know about other therapists, I'm sure they have this experience too. A lot of people get confused about the insurance and how it works, right? So it depends on the plan. So if you have a deductible, depending on if you have mental health benefits, right? If you have a deductible, you have to meet the deductible first before your plan kicks in. So you might have to pay the full price of the session, right? And once you meet the deductible, that's when your plan will kick in and pay 100% or pay 30% or whatever, or 20%, whatever your plan states, right? So if you are, because some people will get surprised, like, oh, I still had to pay. I used my insurance, but I still had to pay. Yeah, you might be responsible still for a portion of the cost. So it's important, if you don't really know what it'll be, to call your insurance company before to say, hey, what are the benefits that I have for mental health? What would I be paying for a session? Right. And they'll let you know. Now, if you don't do that and you sign up on one of the sites that come across from these ads, like Grow, they got Alma, it's a whole lot of them. Depending on what you've been looking on in the algorithm, it's probably, you didn't see the ad or two, probably, right? Once, if you sign up and you don't call your insurance company, they might give you a range of what you have to pay. So they might say, oh, you might pay in between 30 and $140 or something like that. So you're still not going to know the exact amount, but this is telling you that you have to pay something. But to know that exact amount, you got to call your insurance company, because we don't know. We don't know what is going to be, based on your plan, right? But again, after those employee assistance program, after the free sessions, you can use your insurance, or you can pay out of pocket. Now, and then I'm gonna let y'all go, because then I gotta go. But the last thing that I would say is that, right, you can sometimes, no, always, you can opt out of using your insurance if you want, because the insurance has a lot of parameters too. You know, there are a certain amount of sessions you might need, you know, they want to see certain things for certain diagnoses. Like, you have to have a diagnosis to bill insurance, right? Those types of things. If you don't want any of that, you can pay out of pocket, right? Now you are able to control the amount of times you see your therapist, right? You might feel like, okay, I'm doing good. I only want to see them once a month. If you pay out of pocket, you can do that, like for like a check-in. You could do that, right? The structure of therapy, the frequency of it can look how you want it to look when you are paying out of pocket, right? It's a more slight advantage of that, right? You might even find a therapist who does concierge service, where they are available when you need them. Now you're gonna pay, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna pay a little bit more for that because it's concierge, right? But when you need somebody, they're going to be there. Now, if you're using insurance, you can't do that. You know what I mean? And what we know about life is that anything can happen at any time, right? Things are out of our control, but you got somebody on deck to talk to you, to like work you through whatever is occurring, whether it's mild or severe. So you keep that in mind as well, but do not give up. there are plenty of therapists out here that are ready to help you, right? So, if you all have any other questions about anything, about therapy in general, right? Questions about, coaching, if you need a coach, right? Feel free to reach out to me. I hope this was helpful for you all. And I want y'all to tell me in the comments though if y'all been seeing these Greek videos because I'm interested. I'm get I last night it was kind of late, but I'm like, let me reach out to my LS and see, girl, if she didn't see these videos because this is very this is very interesting. But yeah, so let me know what y'all been seeing on the algorithm. But again, I hope this was helpful. Anytime I have, a little bit of free time in between my sessions, of course, I am planning to come to talk about something, right? This is part of my plan to again be consistent with YouTube and to get information out there that I feel is important as, being a therapist. I hope the rest of your day goes amazing, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye.